It's already dark.
It's only dark in your mind. That's what we're here to talk about today. We just got back from Florida and got to hang out a bit with Hurricane Nicole.
Thought we were going to see our first hurricane.
And it went north of Miami, thank goodness.
So I was making peace with the idea. First I freaked out and I was like, oh my, we have to leave. Like we're going to get stuck in a hurricane. And of course all the locals are like, it's just a category 1. And I'm like, and that makes it okay. How? So I'm like, I'm a little confused. So then we finally made peace with the fact that we were going to be in this hurricane. And so we go to bed and it's supposed to hit like in the middle of the night. And I'm like, all right. So I wake up early in the morning and I like raise the blinds. I'm like, all right, because I'm going to like see this thing. So I'm thinking I'm going to like see like, the apocalypse or something crazy. So it's like going to be the end of the world. And there's nothing. It was like sunny and beautiful, and the water was calm. People are in the water. They're on the beach. They're walking their dogs.
But the night before, it was really windy, and
but
there
it
was
wasn't
flooding.
like a hurricane.
Right. But, what it triggered is so often with the patients that I see, and at times for me in the past, before I was really good at managing my mind, there were hurricanes, there were earthquakes, there were fires, there were floods, there was pestilence. I had so many different medical illnesses that never came to be. And, I was 28 years old before somebody told me when I was a psychiatric resident that I didn't have to believe every stupid thought I had. And so what I want to talk with you about, what we want to talk with you about is managing the mind storms that happen with an undisciplined mind.
So it reminds me of when Chloe was little and she used to build stuff up in her head, like so much bigger, right?
Chloe's our daughter.
So if she had to go get her blood test or she had to go, to the doctor for some reason, she still gets a little freaked out by that. But anyways, she would like build it up in her head and she'd be so freaked out by it. And so we would work on different techniques for her to get through it. But afterwards, I remember she was like 5 years old. And afterwards, she walked out of the doctor's office. She goes, wow, that was way worse in my head than it actually ended up being. And I was like, right? Out of the mouths of babes. It was way worse in her head than it was in reality. And so now there are some bad things that happen in reality. Trust me, I was a trauma nurse. So there are some bad things that happen. But oftentimes in our heads, we build things in everyday life. We build things up so much bigger than they are. I know I do this. So being married to you is amazing. But it can be challenging, not because of you, but because of your life, right? So your life can be kind of interesting sometimes and big. So we often have to do, like, I'm an introvert. Well, imagine being married to him if you're an introvert. So because we have like this big life and all these things we have to do. So oftentimes, like, it's really hard for me. I'll build stuff up in my head and all these things we have to do. And it's hard for me to get myself there. Once I get myself somewhere, I'm like, oh, that was actually fun. But it's like the getting yourself there, like all my head just starts to spin with all this stuff.
So what do you do when you have a mind storm? And I often, rock climbers often say there is no bad weather. There's only bad clothes. And I love that. It's, are you prepared? And do you know how to manage the weather that's going on in your mind? So when you have a storm, so I felt like even if Hurricane Nicole hit us, we were prepared, right? You went to the store.
You're married to me.
Married to you. You went to the store. We had food. We're in a safe
medical
building.
Supplies.
And so knowing that bad things can happen, we always say some anxiety is good. A lot of people come to me and they want to lose their anxiety. And I'm like, no, we have to modulate it. We just have to make sure it's you have enough anxiety that you do the right thing, but not too much that you suffer. And so let's not get rid of anxiety. Let's use it with energy, like an Aikido, where you can go with the situation, use it to your benefit, to be prepared. And then you want to anchor yourself to the present moment. Because if you're in the future with fear, you suffer. Have you ever been in the future?
Not
with
me,
fear?
never. I would never do that. So it just occurred to me, this is really good timing, because the holidays get people, I heard it put this way, I love this term, future tripping. So they get you future tripping, right? So people get really wound up about having to see their in-laws, or having to see their own family, or being alone, or spending too much money, or, I mean, the list is endless. So the families can get people really wrapped up in future tripping and get them all wound up over things that haven't even happened yet.
And that's why a lot of people drink alcohol, to decrease the anxiety around future tripping. The problem is, when the alcohol wears off, in 24 hours, your brain rebounds, and then you do it worse, and then you have to drink again. It's the lie that alcohol tells you. So much better to anchor yourself to the present moment. And that is such an important skill. And the more you practice it, the better you will get at it. And I often, when I find myself upset in the future with fear, that I find a way to anchor myself in simple things, like just feel the socks on your ankles. Like I put my socks on at 8 o'clock this morning, and I went for a long walk. I haven't thought about my socks since, because like your brain can block that stuff out. But if I'm getting anxious, I'm like, oh, can I feel my socks? Can I feel the shoes on my feet? Can I just feel my own skin? If I rub my hand, there's a technique I write about I like called havening, where it's bilateral hemisphere stimulation. Anchor you to the present moment. Now, you meditate a lot.
Oh, I have monkey mind. Yeah. No, I need to cage that monkey. So that's how.
So you're only an introvert when it comes to other people. You have lots of people inside.
Oh yeah, I gotta cage that monkey. That's how I cage the monkey. Prayer, meditation, exercise. Yeah.
And exercise helps you so much.
Yeah.
Because what exercise does is it increases tryptophan availability in your brain, which then your brain makes serotonin, and it sort of calms things down. Exercise, like vitamin D, it's one of the universal treatments to calm the storms in your brain. So diaphragmatic breathing, especially the 15-second breath. 4 seconds in, hold it for 1.5 seconds, 8 seconds out. So breathe in 4 seconds. Hold it for 1.5 seconds, and then take 8 seconds. Hold it out for 1.5 seconds. You just do that 2, 3, 4, 5 times. All of a sudden, calm down the storm. And then always ask yourself, does it fit? Does my behavior fit the goals I have for my life? Such a powerful question. Don't you already feel calmer just doing that breath?
I do. And this works if you, some people...
And I rarely feel calm next to you because you're so beautiful.
Oh, please.
It just, you make my heart go so fast.
And it's, for some people they're future tripping. For some people they're past tripping, I guess you would call it. They're in the past with, regret. And so especially the holidays, there's a lot of that. And so, but this works the same.
Well, I know why the holidays are stressful. Because when I go over to my mom's house, my sisters, I have 5 of them.
Well, that alone would be
they're going to
stressful.
talk about all the bad things I did when I was a child. I mean, yes, my
You
sister and I
was that
set
you
the
that
couch on fire.
Yeah, set the couch on fire. I still hear about
I
it every year.
was 5. My sister was 4. What were my parents doing? Leaving matches around. We can go, hey, how does this work? And oh, by the way, I took the whole blame. I got beaten. My sister, Jeannie, was behind me. And I don't remember much of it. But why am I still hearing this?
Your raccoon ate your sister's
60
fish.
some years later.
Right.
It's like that's why the holidays are stressful because people have these memories.
I still know all this stuff. Your raccoon ate your sister's fish. Yeah, that wasn't you.
He was hungry.
Right, but we still
All right.
hear about it.
Can we be helpful?
Do you see how stressed out he looks?
So, dealing with mind storms, breathing, being prepared for whatever situation you're in so you don't have to be anxious. Another tool to anchor yourself to the present moment is take a cold shower. You'll totally anchor yourself.
So
to the
that old
present
expression
moment.
of go take a cold shower, it's actually real.
Well, it boosts lots of different chemicals in your brain.
Yeah.
That
And it helps your
can be
immunity,
so
by the
helpful.
way. It really boosts your immunity. So this time of year, it's good.
And kill the ants. The ants' automatic negative thoughts make any negative situation or stressful situation worse. Ants, automatic negative thoughts. And they link with other negative thoughts, and then they stack with other negative thoughts, and then they attack you.
And just the simple act of going, is that true, is often enough to break it and think of the opposite. And there's a whole process we do, but just quickly, like, is that true? And what is the opposite of that thought is usually so helpful.
Yeah, like with the hurricane, I'm going to die. And it's like, I'm not going to die. And it's like, odds are I'm not going to die because I'm prepared and I'm doing the right things. This is where you need enough anxiety. Do you have any negative thoughts today we can work on?
Today, not so much. I mean, they creep in, but I think we're both pretty good at managing them. But I mean, sometimes the thoughts are, let's say with the storm, oh my gosh, we're going to run out of food. We're not going to be able to leave. I'm not going to be able to get back home. Like all these things, just you start to like spin on them, right? Or I'm going to die. Well, none of us are going to know when we're going to die. Well, I'm going to die. And that means what? Like you have to like sometimes add the, and that means what? This thought that I'm going to die. And that means what? Because what's really bothering you about that is what does it mean to you? What does it mean to you that you're going to die? Because we're all going to die at some point. So what does it mean? It's like you're stressed out about that because why? Your kids are going to be alone or what is it? So then you work on those individual thoughts.
And when you argue with reality, whatever the reality of it is of the situation, welcome to hell. Mm-hmm. I'm so much better, from Byron Katie's book, Loving What Is, argue with reality, welcome to hell. Yeah. When I would be at the airport and there would be a bad storm and a flight got canceled, used to be very upsetting because I'd want to come home to you. And now, if that happens, I'm like, okay, I brought my computer, I have work to do.
Right.
Or I have something to do. Argue with reality, welcome to hell. Another strategy that I love dealing with storms is when we go away.
Mm-hmm. This is a good one.
Shit happens. You just like shit happens.
That wasn't the good one.
My mind, no, hang on. In my mind, I'm like 12 things are going to go wrong. And that's normal. And I'm not going to be upset until the 13th thing goes wrong. Game changer. Yeah. You do that, and quite frankly, not more than 5 things have gone wrong, which means I don't have to be upset. And every time you are unnecessarily upset, every time you're unnecessarily negative, your adrenal glands put out a little squirt of cortisol, which is a stress hormone, which shrinks cells in your hippocampus, so it kills the little baby seahorses in your brain that help you with mood and memory, and it puts fat on your belly. And so I'm like, no, I'm not going to be upset about that because I don't want.
Yeah. And there's nothing you can do about it. So, I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. Or if there is something you can do about it, you're not equipped to be your best if you're upset. So, I remember the first time you said that strategy was when we were getting ready to go to Europe, and you're like, you literally stopped me because something happened. I was starting to get irritated, and you're like, look, we're going on an international trip, and there's going to be like a few things that go wrong. Let's not get wrong until the 13th thing. There's gonna be a dozen things. And I was like, I remember it just reframed the entire thing. I was like, oh, that's so interesting. I don't have to get mad until the 13th one. Wow. Like, what a concept. I don't have to get mad until the 13th thing. And I just like, all of a sudden it was like, well, really what that means is I don't have to get mad.
Or what it means is you are a flexible problem solver. Actually, one of my Olympians that we're working on the whole gold medal thing, and we start her meditation with, I am a flexible problem solver. Because, if you have that sort of goal, stuff is going to go wrong. And if you don't admit it up front and know you can manage it, you're going to suffer. And I don't want her suffering. I mean, this next 2 years is a celebration for her because she's just so competent. And that's what I want your life to be, a celebration. So no, stuff will go wrong, but you are a flexible problem solver. And I love that so much. Around the house during the pandemic, I frequently would say to the kids, who survives a pandemic? And they knew the answer I was looking for. People who are flexible.
Yep.
I had one other thing I wanted to say. Besides, I love you and I'm so grateful for you. And shit happens.
That was your big revelation.
Eckhart Tolle, I love his book, Power of Now, says, try this little experiment. Close your eyes and say to yourself, I wonder what my next thought is going to be. Then become very alert and wait for the next thought. And it's like watching the weather. It's like, oh, that's a pretty cloud. Oh, that's a dark cloud. Oh, it's raining on me. Oh, there's a hurricane. Be prepared. This is what it was. It's not the thoughts you have that make you suffer.
It's the ones you attach to.
It's the thoughts you attach to that make you suffer. Everybody, except for Tana, everybody has weird, crazy, stupid, sexual, violent thoughts that nobody should ever hear. But just because you have a thought has nothing to do with whether or not you believe it, whether or not it's true. And so I think it's so critical to think of the storms in your mind just like the weather. And remember, there's no bad weather, just bad clothes. All right. So much fun to be with everybody tonight. Thank you for doing this with me. I love you.
I love you too.
Bye, everybody.